Hi, I'm Ananya, the creator and founder of the Pleiadian Healing Center. And in this episode of the Ascension Times, we're going to talk about the healing and ascension cycle, the state of affairs in the world at the moment, and really how much focus to invest in that. And then also some exciting news and connection at the end with the Galactics, our galactic brothers and sisters. So I'm sending you love. Enjoy. Hi guys, hope you're well. I'm in a really weird space today, so I don't know if it's the best time to be recording a video, but I'm going for it anyway. So it's been like quite a while since I did the last episode of the Ascension Times. I've been doing a couple of lives here and there, but I really just wanted to do a video where I was like digging a little deeper, and kind of giving more of like a overall summary of everything that's going on at the moment. So where to begin? Um, so yeah, things are shifting a lot. I don't know about you guys, but for me, that eclipse solstice portal was huge. I really went through such a big shift. Um, so my last video, I was really in the suffering and the pain. I was having really bad issues with my monthly cycle, and I was in a really fearful state. I think like for a while there, I'm sure you guys will resonate with this. There was like a huge amount of fear of shedding of the vaccines, and concerned that like if the non-vaccinated had been around people who had been vaccinated, that there was like something about the shedding of the spike proteins, and a lot of women having issues with their menstrual cycles. Um, so I was in a really, really fearful state. I was like, this isn't my choice, but I feel like I'm victim to this kind of situation. And it was just really scary. Yeah. So and with that, like I've had problems with my cycle anyway. I think probably because of my child abuse. Like I learned when I was sexually abused as a child. So I think because the womb is like a bowl, like a chalice, I think it kind of like stores that trauma and that energy there. And I also had like a really traumatic birth, giving birth to my son. So all of that I think had been kind of like held within me, and I think it was my body's way of just going like, rah, rah. It was always like, pay attention to me, I need some attention, this is like really hard, things aren't like on in a great space right now. And so my focus like entirely went into that. But with that, I was getting in every month, I would get into like a really fearful space, and I would feel I'd be scared of like it was like I was losing my life force energy every month. That's kind of how it felt, and I would feel like so drained and weak, and it was giving me that feeling of like I don't know if I'm strong enough to like hold on. I don't know if I'm going to be able to stay in my body for long enough, if this starts to get bad enough. Then I was also scared that if I needed a transfusion, I would have to go and get like a transfusion, and I don't know what the situation is with like if you're getting a transfusion from somebody who's recently had the vaccines, like how that would affect you and all that kind of stuff. Anyway, massive fear there. Um, but I really like went into it. I really, as I tend to do with my healing, I kind of like leaned into it. Um, I transitioned through it, and I actually kind of like felt like I was dying. So it was really, really painful. And there was this feeling of kind of like a death taking place. And so, and it was my fear of death as well. So I don't know if you guys experience it like this, but there's like a cycle for me with my ascension where I kind of shed things that have been really difficult, and quite often it will feel almost like a death basically. And then it's like a part of me dies, like an aspect of me dies. I release something, and then it's like I come through and I'm like rebirthed, and I have like so much energy, and I've like had a breakthrough with something, and I'm like all in alignment, and everything is like in perfect divine flow. So that's like my cycle. I might share a bit more about that in another video actually, because I think it's really useful to identify like what our healing and ascension cycles are, so that we can like really work with them and not be hard on ourselves for what we're going through. Because when I'm going through that death phase, it's like I'm on the bare minimum functioning. It's like look after my son, do everything that needs to be done in terms of like, you know, making his life good. And then for myself, I'm just like in bed, like watching Netflix, bit of healing, watch more Netflix, bit of healing, because it's like as quickly as I can kind of like go into those feelings, because it's not easy to like dive straight into it if it's like really intense ancient trauma that you're dealing with, basically. Who'd have thought, huh? Yeah, so anyway, so I've kind of been through this whole like rebirth thing, and I think I've had a breakthrough around something that I've been struggling with for pretty much all of my adult life. So what I'm doing now, showing up here, doing a video for you guys, I trained in Reiki like in 2009, 2008, 2009. So it's been 12 years that I started my like journey as a healer. Obviously, as a healer, you're always healing and healing others, but kind of like officially like working with the energies in like a more formal way. And for the whole of this period, so for the last 12 years, I have been trying to work and have like a proper career working regularly as a healer. But I have just had so many blockages and so much of my own stuff that I had to work through that it's really happened in like dribs and drabs. Like for a while I was working out of Neil's Yard in London, Neil's Yard therapy rooms, which was really beautiful, and doing Reiki sessions there. But then it's like every time it's like something would get too much and I'd be like, I can't do that anymore. I just can't do it. And I'd kind of have to focus on myself. So these cycles of like little bursts of, you know, doing what I'm here to do and helping people, and then like retreating back into my little kind of like safe cocoon. And especially I think after the birth of my son, I was really, really introverted for quite a long time, because I was processing so much of my childhood traumas at that time. So I think, and part of it is like the creative expression. So if anybody's watching this who has been on the journey of recovering from child sexual abuse, oh God, it's like, it's just such bloody hard work. It's such hard work. There's so much pain and trauma there, and so many ways that that kind of like seeps into your life that you aren't like, I mean, basically like the only ways that I realize that something is like not right with me is by watching other people and how they do things. And I'm like, they seem to be all right. I'm not okay, like in that area. And then it's like, oh, okay, so why am I different there? What is it in me? And usually it will be some kind of dysfunction that I can trace back to the child sexual abuse. So one of them is my ability to express myself creatively. And I was a very like artistic child. I loved making art. I was just constantly painting, drawing, top of my class, all that kind of stuff. And I thought that I would be a professional artist when I grew up. That's kind of like where I was heading towards. But my childhood traumas, like as I went through puberty, I think it kind of activated all of that dysfunctional sexual energy that was in me. Because you're kind of like coming online sexually and like growing into a sexual being. It's like all of that sexual trauma that I had that I hadn't know what to do with. Suddenly it was like, it just made puberty like that much more intense and crazy. And my earrings got stuck there. And I ended up like really suffering with depression. I was anorexic, and then I was bulimic, and then I was put on Prozac, and I just couldn't paint anymore. All I could do was like just these grey canvases of like the sea, like seascapes. There was like nothing in me, and also I was so weak from being anorexic that I didn't really have the strength even to just stand there and like paint with a paintbrush. So instead of going off to university and doing art, I ended up going for like my second option, which was linguistics. because I was like, I really enjoyed science. I did physics at A level and English language. And then it was like, well, it's like the science of language. I kind of like that. So even though I didn't speak any other languages, that was like the logical path for me. And it's not that it hasn't been useful, because I love writing now. I do quite a lot of writing. I love writing on my blog, all that kind of stuff. But that visual creative expression for me was like, was lost. And honestly, it absolutely broke my heart. And even now, it's like really hard talking about it. So since then, that's the age of 16, and I'm 36 now. It's 20 years that I have been trying to paint again. 20 years. And I'm still not there yet. I'm still not there yet. I went back to art school at 25 just for 1 year. And I ended up having like a breakdown then, because like the creative flow was there. But I think because of all like the weird brokenness of like my sacral chakra and the creative flow, it just derailed me. It was like it just took over my life. It's like I was so intensely creative, but it wasn't in a balanced way. And that's kind of like where I am now with stuff, actually. Like so I've had this breakthrough. I finished my website. I've actually finished it, which I'm so excited about. So go check that out. I'll put the link below. And that feels like a visual expression of kind of like my energy and who I am and what I'm about. So I'm really, really pleased with that. But I'm still not painting yet, but I'm getting there. I'm getting there. But anyway, so the flow of the creative expression, the flow of the showing up, the flow of being there for clients, that feels like the area that I've had the breakthrough in, and kind of like having the discipline to kind of actually build this as a business. So, you know, say that I'm going to do these videos every 2 weeks, say that I'm going to do a webinar once a month, and like just commit to that, do what needs to be done and show up. I actually feel like I'm there with that. So, but to get there, it was extraordinarily painful to go through that death. But this is what's on the other side. So this is why I think it's so useful to know what your healing cycle is, because we really, for me, and I think if you're really, really doing the work, if you're really alchemizing those traumas and progressing in an intense way with your ascension, I think you've really got to dive into those deep, dark places. And, you know, it takes over, really. It's like if you're really going to go into that space, you've got to have quietness, darkness, and just internalize, you know, while your consciousness does what it needs to do to shift that density and that distortion and alchemize it into light. That's kind of like the way I see and experience it. So whatever you can, just to like give yourself that space and become conscious of how you work. Like journaling could be a good way to do this, just like seeing the cycle that you go through. So for me, what happens is I feel really tired. Just like I'll just be like going about my life, and suddenly I feel like, oh God, I'm really exhausted today. I'm like struggling to get out of bed. I get very messy. So like I just create mess around me. I can't really clear up after myself. My diet is pretty poor, so I don't feel able to be as healthy. And I eat tons. It's like I just can't get enough food in my face. And that is a sign that I am entering into like the cocoon. And then I will just need to go into that place. I'll probably be distracting myself quite a lot. I'm not very social. I really struggle to get back to people. And it's almost like just shut down anything that requires extra energy, because all of my life force energy is going into focusing within and alchemizing this darkness into light. Then usually at some point something will trigger me in my environment. I will be conscious of it because I've done enough work to kind of like witness when I'm being triggered rather than actually getting lost in it. And then I'll have a huge cry, or just like, usually it's crying for me, just cry it out, either for like 5 minutes or a few hours or days, depending on how big the transition is. And then suddenly one morning I wake up and I feel effing amazing. And I've got like tons of energy and I feel incredible, and I get these huge creative downloads, and it's like everything is like in the highest flow. So I know that Sandra Walter calls it like a go window, and it almost is like that. And I think this is So this thing we've got like in the culture that's collapsing of always being switched on and completely ignoring the fact that we're like cyclical beings and living in a cyclical nature. That for me, kind of like it balances out basically. So when I've got like one of those like go windows, I achieve so much. It is insane. It's like I bend time. It's like, what is happening? I just wrote like 10 blog posts, filmed a video, designed like a course for like the next 3 months. Do you know what I mean? Or whatever. Like, not exactly that, but like it's like that. It just. And so when I go into those phases where I can't really do very much, it's okay because that is also really valuable work, but it's where I need to be at that time. But it doesn't feel good, and that's what's really difficult. It's like I want to be in go mode all the time because it feels so freaking awesome. It's like, yes, you know, just like I'm channeling these energies, I'm creating things I'm really proud of, I feel really fulfilled. And obviously when you're like diving into the pain and the trauma, that feels really, really shite, for want of a better word. You feel terrible. Sometimes you even feel like you're dying. But it's needed, and it is really, really valuable work, especially at the moment. And so at the moment, I know I've spoken to a few friends who I consider to be kind of like quite goddess, priestess, women who are very on it, on their paths. And there's a lot of struggling at the moment. There's a lot of painful stuff that's being pushed to the surface. But we kind of like don't have a choice now. It's like we're in that zone now of the light increasing, and it's pushing all of that stuff out, because that's another side of it. So vibrationally, the more light comes in as we're entering into this like increased intensity with the photon belt, more and more light is pouring in, and it vibrates, you know, it floods your being, and it makes you kind of like, you have to like vibrationally align with it to a certain degree, because like it is in and around you, and it's almost like it shakes the denser stuff out. So it's like you're vibrating at a higher level now. That stuff down there, like at the lowest levels, like the heaviest, deepest traumas, they can't cling to you anymore. So they're going to drop away. They're going to fall away. And the way that this will happen is that things in your environment, your relationships, people, situations are going to trigger it out of you because of that kind of like perfect divine orchestration, and make you react to something or make it rise out of you for you to shed. So that's kind of like an overview of how I am experiencing like my own ascension process. I think healing and ascension are kind of like one and the same, really, because if you're healing and completing with those things that are unresolved, or like those distortions within you, then naturally you're embodying like more of your higher self, like more of your true soul essence and light can shine through. I'm gonna roll. I need to drink some water. So, I wasn't even expecting to talk about that, but there we go. So with that, something that I feel is really important at the moment is really being there for each other, you know, really holding each other through this transformation. So we're all experiencing suffering and pain in different ways. It's a lot. It's a lot when you look at the world right now, and I'll talk about that more in a minute. But really, I think like for all humans as much as you can, they don't have to be like starseeds or light workers. They don't have to be awake, but everybody is really, really challenged right now. So whatever you can do to just be loving to people. I mean, if you ever feel like really frustrated at like the lack of awakening in people, I think if you look at, you just never know what people have gone through to make them be where they are, you know. And if you look at the level and intensity and depth and period of time of the mind control that's taken place, it's like, how can they wake up? How can they, when they've got like the most skilled, advanced on planet and off planet beings orchestrating ways, harnessing biology to get people to think a certain way? Like, how can you override that, you know? So having compassion for people for like the decisions they're making at the moment, and trusting that they are making those decisions for their highest good, trusting that that is their path, because it's not like they're cut off from their higher selves. Like, there will be, yes, there will be an element of living more in ego and fear, but ultimately they are a holistic being who is making their own decisions. So I think, if you know what I'm talking about here, I'm kind of being a little bit obtuse, but you know, you can read into it how you want. But yeah, just really having compassion for those people and love for those people. And with that, when we are looking at like starseeds and light workers and like our fellow brothers and sisters who are really going through it, that ascension cycle that I was just talking about, like sometimes you're going to be in a really good space, sometimes you're not. So when you are in a good space, as much as you can, just be mindful of the people around you in your life who need like lifting up at that time, who need like a shoulder to lean on. And then know that you are held when you're going through the difficult times, whether it's like through your guides who are on the other realms, your star family, or whether it is people in the physical as well. Yeah, I just feel like it was worth mentioning that. I feel like that's really important at the moment. Okay, brief note on ascension symptoms at the moment. So I've been feeling a weird one actually, and I'm not sure if this is just me, but I'm going to put it out there in case other people are feeling it too. But I feel very jittery, kind of like I've had loads of coffee when I haven't had any caffeine, and almost a bit like shaky. So it's like a jittery feeling. It's a bit like adrenaline. I don't know if it's just because of me now flowing with this creativity. I'm still finding ways to manage having that energy moving through me, because it's like really, really intense for me. So it might be that, it might be more of a personal thing, but it could also be related to the light, you know, the intensity of the light. So I thought I'd mention it in case you guys are feeling that. But I think something that a lot of people are feeling is like sleep, the need for sleep. Hell yes. And also like hydration. So I've been like crazy thirsty. I need a lot of water. Been drinking coconut water, kind of like very watery fruits and vegetables like watermelon, cucumber, stuff like that. Um, Remembering, just getting it coming in now, that water is conductivity. Just saw the time at 2222. Water is like an energetic conductor. Water is energy, and it's fluid and it's flowing. So I feel like at the moment we're being called to like really make sure that we're well hydrated, so that we can like assimilate and process these energies more easily. Also, the water is carrying light codes. So it doesn't even have, ideally you're drinking like filtered water, whatever water you feel guided to, that at least you know has been through some process of purification. Avoid tap water if you can. Bottled water isn't great either, because if it's in plastic, because of the leaching of plastics into the water. And then even glass bottled spring water you need to be careful with, because they can just use tap water for that and just call it spring water. So you want to make sure that you're getting it from like a reputable source, so maybe somewhere that does it like more locally and then bottles it in glass. But ideally, just like, you know, source your own water. We use tap water, and we have something called a British, I think it's Berkefeld or something, Berkefeld, like countertop water filter that we just put our water through, because we're in a rented property, so we can't like run it through the plumbing. So yeah, make sure you've got your good water. And what I'm getting coming in now is that like these light codes and the frequencies that are coming in are bathing everything on the earth plane. So it's bathing us, it's bathing the land, and it's bathing all water, whether it's like in the water system, like in a pipe somewhere, or in a lake. So you don't even need to go to like a kind of like sacred place or like a natural spring or anything, even just drinking the water that does come out of the tap, ideally once you purified it, will still contain all of those light codes. So it's helping us ingest that as well. But you can also take it a step further and consciously work with that and just bless the water and activate it and just say, I open to receiving the highest light and ascension codes through this water now. Baths as well, very important at this time. So really just working with water, because it really is kind of like the physical embodiment of like the goddess. It's that fluidity, it's clear, it reflects the light, it's beautiful. So yeah, pulling more water into your day-to-day life will really help with your ascension process at the moment. And so with sleep, I'm finding that I am, when my head hits the pillow, I am like out, and I am going into such deep states of sleep, more so than I think I've ever experienced in my life. So if something wakes me in the night, like if my son needs me or something, I really have to pull myself out. It's like really hard work. It's like, come back into your body, come back. And it can take me like a minute, and then it's like, okay, move, get up. And then I get back into bed again and I'm instantly just out again. So, but with that, I'm having really vivid dreams as well. So I really think that we're being quite active on the other realms at night at the moment. And the sleep is important. So it is helping prepare us for the solar flash. Something's happening in our sleep. Yeah, it's preparing us for the solar flash. Okay. Anything else? That's it. So just, yeah, like prioritize your sleep as much as you can. Do what you need to do to make sure that there's nothing interfering with the quality of your sleep. So if you are, if your sleep isn't great at the moment, see what you can do to work around that. We use, I know like you can get, is it melatonin? I think it's called melatonin, or is it melanin? I can't remember. Can't get that in the UK, but I think you can get that in the States, and that's supposed to really help with sleep. What we use is a sleepy tea, which has got like lavender and stuff like that in it. And then also this stuff called Cherry Night by, I think it's by Viridian, which is, what cherry is it? It's a type of cherry, but I feel like it begins with M, but I can't remember. But a spoonful of that in there, that knocks you out as well and really helps you like, yeah, get into a better sleep. If you're in a city and you are dealing with a lot of like the EMF stuff at the moment, I have actually wondered if that's why I've been feeling jittery. So I've been guided to get a grounding sheet back on my bed again. So yeah, try and get a grounding sheet if you can when you're sleeping at night. And yeah, and if you can't do that, because I know they can be a little bit pricey, you can get grounding cords as well, where it's like something that attaches around your wrist or your ankle and then you plug into a socket. Sleeping with that for me isn't going to work because my legs are like all over the place, so I would just tie myself in knots. But you could just make sure that you spend, like, if you can, like a minimum of 10 minutes, but ideally like half an hour barefoot on the ground outside, so that you're getting that like at least some grounding ness going on. If you can't do your feet because it's like cold or whatever, you could just sit and then put your hands on the ground, just connecting your skin with the ground somehow. Okay, got lots to talk about today. So moving on. Yeah, just the state of the world at the moment. So I have been less focused on that stuff. I have not been watching like the unraveling as much because I've got into this creative flow. So really, it's shifted for me now into following my joy and being in service. And that has just been so incredible for me. So even though there's a lot of suffering going on in the world at the moment, and we're watching this situation unfold that is total insanity, for myself personally, like I am in like a really good space at the moment. But I feel like that is part of my path. So, and I feel like probably it's part of your path too. So when we're looking at what is going on right now, and we know the damage that can be caused by the solution that is being spread around, as in like what is being seen as the answer that's going to fix everything, it's really hard to lose hope. And obviously, if you're personally affected, like if somebody close to you has had some kind of like adverse reaction, then that's something that, you know, you're going to need to deal with, basically. For me, I was really immersed in the horror of it all unfolding. I was just like, this is terrible. I can't watch this. I can't believe it's got this far. You know, people like, how are people putting this in their bodies? Why aren't they waking up? Even people that I thought were seemingly quite awakened, when they had the possible threat of travel being taken away, have gone and had it. And I'm like, for me, like every fiber of my being is like, no, 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 no. I haven't even worn a mask yet. I have not at once covered my face. I can't do it. I can't do it. And you know, they say in the UK, like, if it would cause you severe distress and discomfort, like that's like what do I call it? Like a legitimate reason to say that you have a medical exemption. If I put a mask on my face, honestly, I'm so horrified by it. I think I might actually have a panic attack. I'm that mortified by it, and I just cannot. So I believe I've got like legitimate medical exemption. But you have to choose that for yourselves, and it's like, how far are you going to let it go, basically, before it violates your boundaries? So sorry, I got a bit sidetracked there. So going back to the whole, like watching the horrors unfold. So there's some people I follow on social media who are painting like a really bleak picture at the moment. And honestly, I'm struggling with that, because part of me feels like, it actually came to me like yesterday or the day before. I was like, I've been assuming it's going to be basically apocalyptic, but I'm like, what if actually this could actually be like quite an easy journey? Not easy in terms of like, obviously it's massively challenging for all of us, but there might not be the number of deaths that I was expecting. Do you know what I mean? Like, it might not be as bad as our worst fears. And I really think that's something to bear in mind. So for me, when I was like really immersed in watching it all unfold, I was in so much pain. I was so heartbroken, and I was like paralyzed by it, you know? And I wasn't any use to anyone. I just wasn't any use to anyone. Whereas now I feel like I'm not focusing on it as much. And suddenly I feel able to like really step into my purpose and really be there to hold people through this transition. So I think there's a balance, as always, isn't there? It's like, we need to acknowledge what is happening. We have to acknowledge it. We can't ignore it, because ignoring it, like, it keeps it there. It maintains it. If you ignore it, it's like that saying, what you resist persists. If you ignore it, it's like it just stays in a kind of like deadlock almost. Whereas if you shine the light of your consciousness on it, that's how we transmute these things. So I do think we need to feel the fear and the horror and like the mass abuse that is taking place right now on so many levels. But we don't want to dwell there. We really, really do not want to dwell there. So whatever you can do to work through it, you know, instead of waking up every day looking at it and drowning in it, you got to find your balance, your the level that you're able to handle of it, if that makes sense. So your equilibrium, that's the word I was looking for. So, you know, if you've got like this baseline and it's like, okay, I can ingest so much information about like the negative stuff happening in the world before I sink too low and I can't get myself out again. You want to be able to take a little bit, be like, that was heavy, but then do what you need to do to raise yourself up again. So you're staying in that good place so that you're functioning and doing, you know, what you really came here to do, which is ultimately to like, it is just to be, but it's to be joy, it's to be light, it's to be a visionary. And it's very hard for us to envision the new earth when we are drowning in the horror of the collapse of the old earth. It's really difficult to do. So there really is a balance with that. And I just wanted to share that with you guys. You know, find your balance, find your way of working that really works for you. I have had fears about a mass death event. Different people have different opinions on this. Some intuitives and psychics can see that coming, but it's difficult to know exactly what that means, because for me, when I went through that last healing that was like really, really tough, I genuinely thought I was dying. I was thinking about my will. I was thinking about who's going to take care of my son. That's how it felt to me. And I got lost in it temporarily. Like, it was so intense that I didn't have the oversight to see, like, this is a transition you're going through. There's a part of you that's dying. You're not actually dying. So I don't know if that death thing is like everybody going through their own versions of that. It could be literally like the death of the third dimension, the death of the old systems and everything. I honestly, like, I just got the message. It's not actually going to be as bad as we think. Isn't that funny? So we're like preparing for something really awful. And I'm not denying that it's not going to get a bit mental. But I think for those of us who have really explored the depths of the distortions and the corruption on this earth and really gone into the worst stuff, and like, that's all I need to say. If you know, you know. And I have dug around and I'm pretty thoroughly researched a few years ago. I don't think I could look at it again now, but like that kind of stuff. That to us is like the benchmark of like how awful things can be, you know. So I think we are able to explore. I think our fears of how it could play out could actually be quite extreme, and I feel like it's not actually going to be as bad as that. Another thing that I wanted to mention with that actually is like, it's very worthwhile being conscious of how much of your reality and what you experience is your physical interaction with your environment, and how much of it is what you read online and like absorb from online. So I became aware of this probably quite a few months ago, where there were a lot of like memes and stuff going around about like, oh, you can call me a conspiracy theorist, you can call me this and this and that, and like, you could say, you can have a go at me for not wearing a mask and all that kind of thing. And very kind of like aggressive, on the defensive, kind of light worker, sassy, kind of stuff. And I was all like, I was reading it and I was like, yeah. And then I thought, actually, you know, I do not relate to this at all. I do not relate. So as I said, I haven't worn a mask yet. Regularly catch public transport. I've had hospital appointments. I've had doctor's appointments. I just wear a lanyard saying I'm medically exempt, and I'm like completely comfortable in that. Like, it's like, I'm not wearing a mask. And to be honest, if you like enforce it on me, I will not do what I'm here to do. So like, if my doctor's appointment was dependent on me wearing it, I wouldn't go and see my doctor. I'd just not. That's how strongly I feel about it. But I've never had anybody challenge me on that. I have not had a single person ask me why I'm not getting the vaccine. I have not had a single person tell me that I should get the vaccine, apart from the text messages I'm getting from, you know, my doctor's surgery and Facebook, obviously. Oh, sorry, that really tickled me. Facebook telling me to get the vaccine. You're having a laugh. Oh, good old Facebook. Comedy gold. Sorry, you know when something is just so absurd and it just really gets you. Oh dear. Yeah, try and pull myself together now. Yeah, so I haven't had any of that. I haven't had a single conversation. It's not anything that I'm actually like coming up against, and I think that's really interesting. Because that doesn't seem to be what most people's experiences are. But I don't know if people are genuinely like up against that or if they're not. And there's a couple of reasons that I think this might be happening for me. Firstly, I, over the years, have just more and more and more stood as authentically in like my vibration and my soul and my expression as possible and radiated that out to the world. And I think everything that hasn't aligned with that has really fallen away. And so when I make friends and connect with people now, it is like those crazy powerful soul connections where you're like, what? Me too. Oh my God. And you're like, it's like you've known them for like millennia. Do you know what I mean? Like really strong soul past life connections and stuff. So I only really am surrounded by people in my life um who I can be really myself with and kind of speak fairly unfiltered with the exception of family. But with my family, like we've been through so much together. There was so much dysfunction because of how my childhood was. And there's been a lot of like very volatile emotional ups and downs, but I've done so much work on healing those relationships, as have they. Um, and we focus now on love. Do you know what I mean? We focus on being there for each other, caring for each other. And we know that we have radically different beliefs, and we're okay with that as far as I can see. And it's just something that we've kind of put to the side. And I think that's really important and valuable because like, I love my mum and my brother so much. I love them so much. And it's been at times, especially with my mum, it's been complicated, to get to that point of just feeling like light and joyful in our relationship, and just enjoying each other's company and loving each other for who we are. But like I have that now, and I think cultivating that in your life, obviously, like if you're in a situation where you're actually like being abused by a relative or something, or it's like a really dysfunctional relationship, there are times where it's better to like cut that shit out and get out of there. But like, what am I trying to say? I really value having that relationship and that connection there. And I think our beliefs about how we're watching everything unfold can be really divisive right now. But ultimately, if you can just keep coming back to love and compassion, it truly is like the foundation of our lives at the moment. And it's the answer. It's the answer to everything. I honestly think for everything that's out of balance, if you can come back to love and compassion, oh, it's just the way forward. Um, so, but sometimes the loving thing to do is to put a firm boundary in place and say no. So it's really important to say that because I've had to do that a lot as well to get to this point. But yeah, just like what is the most loving thing in each situation? Just tune into that and you're good. Finally, just a quick word from the Galactics. So I am holding a webinar on Saturday, which is the first one that I've done for years. So I'm a little bit like, but I'm also really excited. I was very strongly guided to do it. It was one of those channeling things that came in. It's on Saturday on the new moon. If you can't make it, don't worry about it. I'm going to be recording it and offering a replay afterwards. But if you can tap in live, then I think that would be like the most potent experience. So basically, when I set up this webinar, I literally felt like thousands of star brothers and sisters just like putting their focus on me, just like, whew. And I was like, hi. It was really, really powerful. And it's funny, I've been thinking like, I don't really chat that much with my Pleiadian family anymore. It's been more like there's a synergistic energy between us. So like as I do things like build my website or like send out an email or anything, I feel like they're with me and in me. So it's like we're kind of like merged together rather than a kind of like, okay, I'm going to direct my consciousness and have like a conversation. But I have been very mindful. It's like I don't feel that much contact with the Galactics lately. I wonder why that is. And then I set up this webinar, and suddenly it is like a freaking homing beacon. It's like because I've created a place in time and space. So because time isn't linear, we've already done it in many ways. It's like it's there, and it has pulled in so many beings basically. And I realized it's because I haven't been sharing my gifts, because I haven't been this kind of like connective channel, like I am in my sessions when I'm connecting kind of like people with their star family and stuff like that. They just haven't been kind of like coming to me, but I'm just like, it's good. I'm just really excited about it. So you can get tickets on my website. I'll put the link below. And again, if you don't manage to make it in time, no worries. There will be the replay. But it's called Birthing the New Earth, the Pleiadian Light Ceremony. And we will be doing a kind of Pleiadian Ascension transmission where we're connecting with Gaia's 5D crystalline grids. I nearly said 5G then. Don't want to connect in with those. And with the Ascension grids from the central sun. And then we're going to do lots of like transmuting stuff that we're ready to release and go on a journey probably into the future on Earth. I'm not 100% sure on the format of this exactly yet, but probably into the future on Earth to have a look at what it's like in about 200 years time, so that we know what we're heading towards and we know what to focus on. Because at the moment, I think a lot of people are losing sight of why they're here. It's like, I've had enough of this shit. I don't want to be here anymore. Just let's be done with it. But it's like, if you could see what is the other side of this, it's like it makes it all worthwhile. And if you can feel it and experience and embody it, then that's even better. So thank you guys for coming in. It's going to be really awesome. And then also, just when I was doing a run through of the transmission the other day, and I called in my Pleiadian family, it was really weird. It was like they were above me in the room and they reached a hand down, and it was like they were like right. It was like hands connecting like that. They were like right here, and I've never felt them that close before. They've always felt like they're off in a ship somewhere, but it almost felt like it was their way of communicating to me that they're getting closer and closer and closer. Yeah, they're not. It's not far now, guys. It's really not that far away, and like physically, they're a lot closer as well. So it's happening. It's awesome. So I'm sending you all so much love. I really am. Oh my god, I love you guys so much. You are doing so well. I know I've recently been put onto Blossom Goodchild's channel. She's talking about being absolutely sick of it and like she's had enough, and I get that. I totally get that, and I think a lot of people are in that space. But yeah, we're here for each other. Let's just be here for each other, you know, that we're all in the same boat, and sometimes we're struggling and sometimes we feel good. So between us, if we unify and support each other, we've got this, and it's all going to work out in divine timing to the highest divine level for the highest good of all beings. I truly believe that. So I'm sending you so much love. I hope you're good. If you enjoy this video, don't forget to subscribe, click like, leave a comment, and all that good stuff. I'd love to know how you guys are experiencing things at the moment and anything you'd like me to cover in future videos. And I will speak to you soon. Take care. Bye.